You're letting everybody roll in. So we'll just sort of start beginning, but favorite day of the week, even though we're on Monday. Thank you all for bearing with us. Come on in. I'm looking to see Christine and Joe. Let's see.
Yeah.
Wait, oh, I see you. Okay, I see you. Hold on. Let me spotlight you for a bit. Hi.
Hey.
So excited to have you back.
And your shirt coordinates with the jacket. That's amazing.
You know, I try to do something because in real life, I typically work from home. I don't look like this. So I really do dress up for my book clubbers. And I tried to do something really special with my dog-eared book.
Your post-its also match your shirt.
I'm really big on Post-its and office supplies and stationery. So I'm loving it. Jen, when you get in here, Joe, when you get in here, make sure you tell us. But how are you? Welcome back.
Good, really good. I'm so excited to be here tonight.
Such an OG.
I love all the build up to it on Instagram too. This is really fun. You guys seem to be having such a great discussion along the way, which we love to hear.
Oh, we've had a lot. We really enjoyed this book. I have this music on here, but I'm going to turn it off because I feel like I can't talk about it enough. But okay, I'm just going to take a few minutes. We'll do some housekeeping. I think Joe will be here.
Yeah, she should be here. Yeah.
Find her. We're a good group. We can gab on and on and on. So we're just happy you're here, Christine. But you guys, welcome to another Tanya Time Book Club. This is our Zoom author party. So excited that you're here to get lit with me. I am going to start by my cocktail today as a Mai Tai. I'm very excited for this because I didn't even have to make it. And this is not sponsored, although I wish it would be. But these are these cute little alcoholic pre-mixed drinks that I found at the liquor store. And they are an Atlanta-born product. And it comes all in this little instant jar. And it's 25% alcohol. So it's a super shot. So if I start saying really weird things at the end of this book club, you'll know it's because of that one little drink.
Oh my God, I love that. I have to
really
look
good
for them in New York. Mai Tai. And do they have different flavors?
They have, and they come in these little mixed 4-packs of like espresso martinis, vodka gimlets, cosmopolitans. It's really fun. So
oh, I have to get those.
Yeah. So no wine tonight. I went straight for the cocktails. Number 2, I just want to say, book clubbers, there's about 2 spots left for our London trip. So tell your friends, tell your non-friends, tag someone on Instagram. We will be going to London September 28th through October 2nd. I'm so excited. Very few of us have met in person. So it's going to be a really great time, but I feel like we're all this book bestie club. We have... Yeah. Mostly it's women. There's some guys on this trip. There's some husbands on this trip. I don't know if they're gonna be sick of us by the end of it, but I think they've got to like books, and I feel like our tribe finds your vibe. So we are gonna have a great time. I'm so excited about that. Just to recap, you guys, we're going to London September 28th through October 2nd. Yeah, woohoo, London, you guys. And we're going to spend our time during the day seeing London, the Eye, changing of the guards, some little high tea rooms so that we can pretend to be like very British, fun people drinking tea with our pinkies up, talking about books and whatever else rabbit holes we go down. And then at night, we are going to have incredible dinner and author salons with a range of different authors. Every night, we will have different authors joining us for dinner, talking about their books. We'll be giving the first 50 of their manuscripts if we have not already read the full book. So it is going to be a really great time. I cannot wait to hang out with everybody all day long and just be in London and see like something outside of the US for a bit. So very, very excited about that. And without further ado, Christine is here. She is one of the co-authors of, well, you guys, I feel like we all sort of know you.
Yes, we're part of the crew.
Yeah, you're definitely.
It's actually going to be here soon. She just texted me. She's running a little bit late with the kiddos.
This is the thing about our book club. I've been in book clubs where I feel stress and like agita. Did I finish the book? Am I going to say something smart or not smart? Did somebody already say that? Like, this is a no stress book club. So welcome, book clubbers. Just the rules for our Zoom conversation tonight. It's super interactive. Y'all have listened to me talk and moderate conversations week after week. I want you guys to join in. So you raise your hand, you unmic, you mute, you ask your questions. We'll kick off a little bit of the conversation, but it is definitely something where I want everybody to be able to feel free to join in. That is the fun part. And yeah, there's no question is too silly. I feel like we're really here to discuss the stuff that we talked all about for the past couple of weeks. We can even go back to other books if you guys have some other questions. So it is a free for all. We want you to enjoy yourself and ask all the bookish questions that you guys have. So I'm
so
here
for this. I'm so excited. I can't even tell you.
Because I think one of the best things is oftentimes when you have author chats, it's like no spoilers. The book has just come out. Nobody's really got to engage. So this is sort of the greatest part. And we have a lot of questions for you. Some of them I'm like, we've discussed and we're like, can we ask that? What's going to happen?
Anything.
I feel like anything goes in our book club. We know the boundaries to which we will not cross. So I'm very excited that we will have a really, really great time. Christine is back for the third time, I think. You guys know she's an incredible editor, publisher. She's published several books. Book that she's co-authored. And we are just so excited to have you here. So let's get started.
Okay. Oh, Joe's here. I see. Okay. I know she's wearing a hat. I spotted the hat.
I see her. I'm here. Spotlight you for a bit.
In my fedora. Yeah.
Okay, so Joe, we just did a whole introduction and I'd be remiss. Oh, hello. Hi.
Charlie's here too. Hi, Charlie.
Charlie's here too. The whole gang. This is what.
Okay, so if you guys don't follow both of these incredible women right now on Instagram, like get your life and follow them, because I love all of your posts, all of your podcasts, all of the material that you guys put out. It is so diverse and all over the place. And I feel like Joe in particular has 3 kids.
There's 3 of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the oldest. He's 6.
You're 6. She travels the world. So this beautiful dichotomy of childless by choice to 3 under 6.
Just breeding all the time. Yes.
I appreciate it because I feel like I live in the turmoil. I have young nieces of my own. I have siblings who don't have kids. I don't have kids. And I appreciate seeing both live and in real life on both of your Instagrams. So make sure you certainly follow both of them because it's everything you guys want. So where are you calling in from right now? Because I feel like you're somewhere interesting.
I'm up in the Catskills.
She looks like she's in Cuba, right? When I saw her earlier, I was like, you look like you're in Cuba.
I didn't know if you were in Florida.
It is my sun hat.
Catskills. Okay. All right. Well, we love this special guest here. Maybe we should start off by asking for you to introduce yourself because it's your first time on our book club. Hi, sir.
Will you introduce yourself, Charles Astor? Who are you? All right. If you're not going to participate. This is Charles Astor. He loves books, just not mine. He's a big reader.
Oh, are you reading anything good, Charles? Because we have lots of people who have kids. They want to know some good books. So definitely fill us in.
He just started a great kids series. There's 3 books called the Astronauts series. And they're graphic novels. They're really great and they're illustrated and written by our friends who live down the street here. So
wow, the Astronauts.
The Astronauts. Yeah. Yeah, they're a big hit over here.
Okay.
But not that good for me.
All right, go. I'm gonna work.
Mama.
Go.
I love that. Mom's like, go, I gotta work. Okay, well, both of you are here. We're so excited to have you. We loved this book. You're second timers, so I feel like this is all of it, and we're excited to dive into everything. I want to start and just, do a little recap, Zhuzh, and then I'll open it up to the book clubbers for some pretty interesting questions that came up, because now we've gone through your whole book. We loved it. We fell in love with Cinnamon. We fell in love with Daisy. And, there's no spoilers, no surprises. But I want to start off by just saying the ending. So I feel like, first of all, I divide up the chapter into books, and for some reason, I was worried that people wouldn't be able to keep up with the pace. The pandemic's over. And so I left the last 2 chapters out. Everybody, so 14 and 15 were explosive, I feel like, for everyone, to the point where people were like, we're going to need another session. So we had to have
I saw that.
Yes. We had to have an emergency additional session to discuss before we even got on with you guys. And that says a lot. People were like, it doesn't matter. Thursday is good. We'll be there 8 o'clock. I'm not going out, but we need to talk about this. The ending was so good. It was everything we wanted. And I'm going to start off by saying that Abigail, out of nowhere,
was team Abigail for the win. I was loving all the
Abigail for the win. Yeah.
Just so out of nowhere. And as this book, really had all these themes of building your own chosen family. And she was such a sleeper. So I just want to start with Abigail, because the ending was the punch that everybody needed. There's a lot that we can talk about there, but where did Abigail come from? And tell us a little bit more about her, because Jason was a turd. Nobody liked him. Like literally, everything about Jason was so perfect. And being someone that lives in Atlanta, I feel like we all know that.
You've met Jason before.
Met Jason. Many of you have maybe dated Jason. Yeah.
Haven't we all?
And the fact that he ended up like being this like house flipper with it was just hilarious. So yeah, I just want to dive in and let's start at the end. I want to know a little bit more about Abigail and like how you sort of tied her into the story.
I think, Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, because we wrote this so long ago, but I think Abigail is the character that changed the most.
Yeah, I think
from the initial outline. So we do a really robust outline for our books. We have to, because we're writing together. So like we have to know where we're going, so like one of us will write a chapter, the other will pick it up, and then we really have to spell things out. And so we pretty much knew what was going to happen to Cinnamon and what was going to happen to Daisy. And Abigail really changed because we wanted her to have that kind of banger of a surprise. And also the theme of chosen family, it was always going to be a theme in the book, but I think it really emerged much more strongly even than we thought it was going to. And so yeah, we talked about it for a long time. We're like, how can Abigail, and we love us when a character surprises you, we're like, how can Abigail surprise us?
Yes.
And I think that she did, and I love her. She's one of my favorite characters in the book.
Same, and I feel like sometimes, we like twists and turns and characters to make decisions that defy expectations. And I think most of us, we know also the mother who's like, my kid can do no wrong, you just need to listen to him. You need to do your marriage, support your man, like blah, 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 blah. And that's what you're kind of expecting Abigail to do and who you're expecting her to be. And so I think it is really interesting when she makes this pivot. And it surprises Cinnamon too, because Cinnamon is not necessarily expecting Abigail specifically, right, to be there for her. But in general, Cinnamon has been primed her whole life to prepare herself for people to not be there for her, right? So nice that it takes Cinnamon off guard that this is a woman that she didn't know felt the way she did about her. And what a great surprise in life when, someone feels for you or cares for you or has been thinking about you in a different way than you thought they were. Like that can be really life affirming and go a long way. And that was part of Cinnamon's journey to learn to trust people.
Oh, I felt that a lot. Actually, at some point I was almost getting annoyed, not annoyed by Cinnamon, but I just felt like she was stuck in this trajectory of assuming that nobody could love her for who she is. We saw this with Lucia. We saw this, with Abigail and just anybody, Daisy. She was like, I am unwilling to really show who I am because obviously, I got it. She had so much trauma, but just with everyone, with Jason, everyone, she was unable to like really believe it. And I think it was work that she had to do on herself too, but
for sure.
Yeah, it was really, the Abigail piece was really nice. And especially just saying, you guys did a good job of backing it up by like, listen, I had this, dream of having all these children and I had to pour it into the one child that I had. And I realized he was so spoiled. And, the piece where he stole her inheritance and Cinnamon's was like, especially heartbreaking.
Yeah. Jason, right? But Jason, what's interesting about Jason is, as annoying as he is, and he is, you could see how on paper, at least, he's the guy that Cinnamon, and he's like so representative of this this is not the kind of life I know. And this guy represents the kind of life that I want. Like he's, handsome and slick and going places and, loves me. Like, there's something about finding your value in how someone sees you when you're not able to do it on your own. And Cinnamon was really susceptible to that until she wasn't, right? And I think a lot of women, a lot of us have been in that journey, right? Of like with the wrong person for the wrong reasons, for the feeling of it, or for what we want, the outside pretty picture, and not the reality. And part of this novel for her and her journey was like waking up to the reality of like what her life really was, and not necessarily, what she was like working so hard with a white knuckle grip to make it into.
Oh, Cinnamon. We definitely loved Cinnamon. A couple things I want, since we're talking about Cinnamon right now and her letters and just the end. So I don't know if this is a jump, you guys, but I want to go right here to the epilogue was amazing. We see Lily, which I just would like to say, we were like tongue in cheek, you lily white baby.
Oh my God, that actually wasn't even on purpose. I mean, maybe subliminally, but that's really funny.
That's really funny. Yeah, we did not think that. But yes, she is a lily white baby.
Lily white baby. Wow.
The funny thing about this baby too, and I was thinking this today, is we started writing this book and wrote it before I had my third baby, who came out looking exactly the way we described this child. She has like the bluest eyes you've ever seen. I mean, she's just white as all heck. There's nothing to me in that baby. But I was looking at her today, I was like, you're Bluebell.
Oh, that's crazy though. You basically manifested your baby in utero.
I manifested my baby in a book. Yeah.
Wow. I love it. But we thought the lily white piece was interesting. We loved it. And then we had Ruby, Lily and Ruby.
Yes.
Ruby. Okay. So how did you factor Ruby into this? Because that was a total sort of, I think it was a shocker for most of us. We didn't think she was going to have another sibling, but it obviously made so much sense. It was just a nice little bow at the end. Was that from the very beginning or?
No, Ruby was another late addition to the book. But I think the characters, when you're writing them, they tell you who they want to be and they start growing in different ways. And like it just felt really right for Cinnamon's journey and her arc for Ruby to come along. And so Ruby kind of surprised us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hallmark. So much of Cinnamon's life is a surprise and is unexpected. And so much of her life has been, bad surprises or things that she wasn't braced for. And so the addition of Ruby, right, is like a child came into her life under similar circumstances, meaning, swiftly and without any preparation. But she was ready for that because she had, already done it. And she had already made, for all her ambivalence about motherhood, she had made this decision, so she knew she could do it again and wanted to do it again. And so as Joe said, it just felt right.
Okay, I've got like 2 more questions, you guys, so raise your hands, get in line. Let's what did Cinnamon end up doing? Did she stay at that school? Like how did she live?
Where is Cinnamon now?
Yeah, where is Cinnamon now?
Well, we know she moves to Atlanta. Like she does go back to, so I'm assuming she quits her job because I also think that and this is all speculation, right? And the virtual ongoing world, we still wonder where Riley and Jen are. We talk about that all the time. We're like, what are they doing now?
Yeah, I think that Jen is a sexy divorcee these days. That's where I'm leaning for Jen.
Guys, you guys remember who they're talking about? We Are Not Like Them, Jen and Riley. I think most of you guys might have read that. I could totally see her as a sexy divorcee.
Sexy divorcee.
Jacksonville.
Yeah. Yes. And she posts it, and she obviously posts it all on Instagram. It's like all bikini shots all the time.
But I think part of Cinnamon leaving her job is also that what we really conceived of Cinnamon, that she was like happy with this, or content at least with this, small safe world that she created, which was beyond her wildest dreams growing up. Right. And then once something electrified her or changed things or, shook it up, the finding of this baby, it opened up so many other possibilities that had her examining everything, right? Her friendships, her marriage. And I think her job is a part of that. As much as she enjoyed it, helping kids, I think Cinnamon would think and does think that there are other things for her to do and dreams that she has, which we talk about in the epilogue. Writing is one of them, and she'd always been such a book person, and reading was her salvation. And so it wouldn't surprise me if Cinnamon worked in a bookstore and was working on her memoir.
Did I freeze or did she freeze?
I think she froze. We did a book club right before this too, and she froze then too. So I think it's her. But everything Christine is saying is spot on. Yeah, no, I think that she's in Atlanta. I think she's like really come into her own and like feels like that she has self-worth and she has value. And yeah, I think maybe she's working in a bookshop and working on that memoir. And she's finally gonna go. She's got her passport and she's finally gonna take that trip abroad.
I could tell. Oh, we lost her. She'll be back, you guys.
Certainly knows where we are.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to ask you a question because Sonia asked, how did you both come up with the characters and the storyline? And this might be a revisitation because some of us haven't met you guys before and had conversations with dual authors. So she asked, did it stem from an idea, then through the discussion, and it manifested into this amazing story? So if you feel like, just sort of open it up and start from the beginning of how you decided to write this book together.
Yeah, I mean, we've known that we were going to write this book together since we did our first book together, because we sold them in a 2-book deal. And we knew we wanted both of the books to, explore themes of race and intimate relationships, but in different ways, in different relationships. So with We Are Not Like Them, it was a friendship. And with You Were Always Mine, we wanted to explore it within parenthood. And so we had the idea and the storyline for Cinnamon and Daisy and the general idea of their journeys for the past 7 years, I think. And like as with We Are Not Like Them, we wanted it to be like to have like one explosive thing happen. This like, oh my gosh, can you believe it? What would you have done in this situation? And in this case, we wanted it to involve an abandoned baby. So we knew that really early on. And then we just go forward with like discussion after discussion and like the outline process and let the story kind of evolve as it will. The name Cinnamon actually came to us through the reporting of We Are Not Like Them. We were interviewing a woman police officer in Philadelphia to make sure we were getting the cop details in We Are Not Like Them right. And she was telling us a story about her first partner, whose name was Cinnamon. We walked away from that interview. We're like, we've got to name a character Cinnamon. And we did, and we stuck with that the whole way through.
I love it. Great question. Okay, so I want to ask you like very pointedly, because this is a question. And I know you guys do a lot of research based, but the idea of, Jason just being very adamant, like a Black man cannot raise a white child. Like it actually puts him at risk. If he's taking this child to the playground and he's leaving by himself, will people like raise an eyebrow? What are your thoughts on that? Or, what is sort of the narrative that you saw from research or talking to other people? Because I imagine that it's fairly common. There's blended families of all sorts. So what was the like high level answer to that very weird question?
Yeah, no, not weird at all.
Right.
And I think it actually is. It's really rare for Black families to be adopting white kids, right? Like super, super rare. And, I interviewed this Black couple in North Carolina that were our foster parents, but adopted a white child, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed little boy. And all of those things have borne out in their real lives, right? They've had the police called on them multiple times. They've had people approach them in restaurants, at rest stops on family vacation, at Target, at the grocery store, saying, you know, what are you doing with this child? You know, you have no right to be with this child. One woman yelled at you know, the baby, he was only 2 at the time and was like snuggled up against her. So you have this white baby with this black woman at a restaurant. And this white woman came up to her and said, his mother would hate it that you were holding him like that. You know, that is not appropriate. That is too intimate for you to be holding that child like that. I mean, reprimanded her in, you know, a whole restaurant full of people. And so, as extreme as it might seem that Jason's point of view is, there's, you know, the fear of living as a Black person in America in general anyway, right, of constantly being scrutinized is valid, that he would worry, you know, that all eyes were going to be on him, and that, you know, there's a lot of potential to be scrutinized at best, but, you know, harassed and have police involvement at worst. And so we wanted to present that as a valid concern of Jason's, right, that Cinnamon would have to take into account, you know, or at least talk about, and maybe she wasn't thinking about it, you know, before he voiced it in such a way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think that's been a moment for a lot of book clubs, and you know, particularly I've heard from a lot of white readers who are like, oh, like that is legitimately a thing that I would not have thought about. And I've also heard from just a lot of mothers generally who were like, of course, but like that made me pause to be like, yes, as a man, as a Black man, he's going to be judged so much differently. And we wanted that to be one of those moments where the reader kind of stops and is like, oh yeah, of course, I have to think about someone's point of view that's not like me at all.
Yeah. That was a really strong point. And it's, you know, we talked about that a lot. We talked about how there was an episode of Blackish that sort of joked about a little bit about that was really interesting. I saw it on an Instagram clip or TikTok or something. But this is what I also love about your books. You are sort of creating ways for people to walk in other people's shoes and think about something that is life or death in the experience of one person, and just you would never have to think about it in the experience of somebody else. And also why I think fiction is such a great equalizer for that, because it forces people to think about it in, you know, in their homes, in the comfort of their homes, and then have discussions on it. So we certainly appreciate that.
Well, that's even the thing with the premise of the book. You know, if you have a white person finding a Black child, and then you flip that, right? Like it's all the world of difference, right? Just exact same scenario. You're just swapping out races. And that's telling in and of itself, right? Like it becomes a very, very different story and a very, very, you know, different set of circumstances for our characters.
I loved it. Okay, Rach, you can unmic and ask your question. Welcome to the floor.
Hello. Thank you so much for writing these books. I've enjoyed them both, and the discussions at the book club, we appreciate it. I wanted to ask because, you know, I felt like Grandpa got off a little easy. I really wanted him to, you know, in the court for like a call out. I know it's like realism, so he probably didn't get his punishment, but do you feel like the grandmother knew she was trying to save face? Why did you guys not go with the angle of making him pay?
You know, kind of just what you said, right? Like what would happen in reality? What does happen in reality every day? I mean, I don't think Daisy was emotionally equipped to go through that, what it would take for him to get retribution. And I just also don't think that he would have had to pay, sadly. And we went back and forth about whether or not the grandmother knew. I think she knew. I do. We went back and forth mostly about like whether to spell it out more, right? But like I think it's kind of more impactful if you don't spell it out, so that we can have this discussion. Like, do you think she knew? If she knew, why didn't she do anything? I think that happens.
Please tell us, because I feel like we sort of talked about it. I feel like she knew. That's why she finally stood up and said no.
Yeah, exactly. I think she knew, and that her standing up was the most she could do. it was the most that she could give. And, you know, kind of like we wanted Abigail to surprise the readers. We wanted the grandmother to surprise readers a little bit, again, to show that there's shades of gray. Not everyone is all good or all bad. The grandfather is clearly all bad. Jason pretty much sucks, but like, you know, the grandmother did have, albeit small, she still had this moment of redemption.
And also, I think the question for Daisy in her mind was, did my grandmother know, right? And I think that happens a lot. Like, you know, a lot of layers to our stories are, you know, who knows what about other people and what are we keeping from other people? And I think that that is something that Daisy really wrestled with, and that she wasn't going to come right out and ask. But I think it's, you know, a lot of it for her was like, you know, how much was she not being there for me and not sticking up for me? And I think it's a fair question in this moment for Daisy to say, okay, she stuck up for me in this moment when I needed it, but is that enough? And, you know,
Right.
some of our, or what does that make up for? And I think a lot of the themes in our stories, and something that we really like to wrestle with, is like, what is justice, right? Like, what does make things right? And how do people seek repair in relationships, you know, and how much is enough? Usually it's not enough. I mean, I think about, because I know some of you read We Are Not Like Them too, you know, it's kind of equivalent to the scene of Jen and Tamara in the bathroom, right? It's like, you're going to have this moment together, but like, you know, is sorry enough? Is a letter enough? Like, obviously not, but like, it's better than nothing. So is her grandmother standing up for her in this moment, you know, like a consolation of any sort? That's a question for Daisy. We can't ask her.
Yeah. Can you imagine if she didn't show up? And then what happened with the friend who was supposed to show up? I forgot his name.
Yes, Caleb.
Oh, Caleb. Yeah.
We're having Caleb. He just exited.
Well,
left.
Caleb was on his way. I think Caleb does
Mhm.
make it. He was just
Mhm.
driving from Virginia and has a tight schedule. So I think he is going to be there for Daisy.
All page.
Yeah.
And I want to ask, sorry, this is from We Are Not Like Them. Just to clarify, I've asked before, but just to clarify, the cop was white, right?
In We Are Not Like Them. Yes.
Yeah.
Kevin is-
Okay. Because I have a whole discussion with people. People think that he could have been black. I'm like, I think he's white.
Oh yeah, no, Kevin's definitely white.
Okay. Thank you.
Back to Daisy, because there's a bunch of us who wanted to know, should Daisy have gotten in trouble, and is it illegal to abandon a baby? Because one of the things that really got me was she sort of abandoned the baby and she was gone. It's not like she was hiding in the bushes to make sure a dog didn't eat the baby or something. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
because she left.
No,
How was she
that's
so
valid.
sure?
Yeah. No, I mean, she did. That's how you're adding that layer of, you know, tension for her, or conflict about her coming forward, because it was real that she did commit a crime. And in her mind, I mean, we always say, you know, desperate people make desperate choices, right? And so Daisy's desperation, we hope, you know, was conveyed. But since Cinnamon had this, you know, really a sacrosanct ritual every day, and that Daisy really, you know, knew Cinnamon and knew her rhythms, that she was, you know, taking it on faith and luck and fortune, good fortune, that there would be, you know, it wouldn't be too long. We're guessing, you know, it's maybe like an hour between like when she left the baby and when, you know, she knows that Cinnamon is going to lunch, but still, of course, a risk. And, you know, I think part of what haunts Daisy is she doesn't actually know what happens, right? She doesn't know that Cinnamon kept the baby. She doesn't know that the baby didn't have a father. Like, she doesn't know anything about what happens until she, you know, finds out and sees the video, and then is both comforted that her plan in a way worked just as she wanted it to, but also tortured because, you know, then she's seeing this baby that she gave up. And we wanted that to show how agonizing that decision was for her. You know, it wasn't as easy as, oh, I just left my baby in the woods and got on with my life. Obviously, there were going to be really strong emotional ramifications in that moment and through the rest of her life. This is not a, you know, a situation that was not going to leave lasting scars for Daisy.
Well, and we do say it a lot that desperate people do desperate things, but we also wanted to underscore just how alone, afraid, naive, young, and in some ways ignorant Daisy is too, you know, like to say, oh, I can't believe you would have your character do this stupid thing, which I did actually hear from someone wrote that on like some review site. And like, characters do dumb things. A lot of people
do
are
dumb
smart,
People do
right?
dumb
And
things.
so like people do dumb shit. So it's just like, yes, of course, it's okay for this character to be flawed
Mhm.
and make a really bad choice. And that was, we wanted her to do that.
Yeah. And it makes sense because she really like, you know, and even to hear you say that, part of it is, you know, I think someone had asked this question here, what made Daisy more, Morgan said, what made Daisy more open-minded than her grandparents? Because that actually felt like a leap to us. She hadn't seen anything else until she got to school, maybe met someone like Caleb, you know, so it is, she was ignorant. She didn't have anything better around her
Yeah.
than her horrible
Sheltered.
grandparents too.
I think that Caleb, I saw that question in the chat. I think Caleb was a part of it for Daisy because she'd had a friend that she watched be discriminated against for something else. And she watched him be hurt. And so I think that that broke Daisy's heart open and her mind open in a new way. I also think some of it is generational. To be honest, she grew up with a much different media than her grandparents grew up with, right? But I really do think that the big answer to that is Caleb.
Yeah.
But also, I think in a weird way, Daisy doesn't see color in that purest, like sheltered form. Like she sat down with Cinnamon and just like met a stranger on a bench and started talking to her and was like, oh my God, this woman would be a good mother for my child, right? Without all the other layers of racial complexities almost, you know, she for better or worse, and you know, partly that's, you know, some naivete there too, not thinking through the complexities there. But in a way, she was just like so sheltered that, you know, it didn't even occur to her to think on like a more complex racial relations level. It was all in her mind, you know, pretty simple from when she grew up, like Black people are bad, like the messages,
Horrible,
right? Black people are bad. And that was pretty much it. So then she meets Cinnamon and is like, oh, okay, you know.
She's so nice and kind. And I wish I could grow up in a family like I wish I could have had that. Okay, this is a huge question and it was really crazy for us. Sonia's asking, is Daisy the product of her mother?
Oh, the molestation. Oh, that's so interesting.
Because we were basically thinking Gramps is not Gramps' first time at the rodeo of being horrible.
Right.
Thought about this young 16-year-old girl who was drinking maybe too much, maybe this might be us overthinking it, but we were like, oh my gosh,
I mean, this is actually the weird beauty of creating a fictional world. It's like exponential because it spins, it's like, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like AI where you like don't know where it's going to go. I mean, I think that that's so interesting. It's actually not something that we talked about one way or another, but I think it's completely viable.
Totally possible. And I did not think about it until right this second.
Right now, but that's a great question.
We were like, oh my gosh, is Daisy? Yes.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. And I'm sure, you know, maybe that's something that Daisy, you know, could have wondered about even like, in, you know, the darkest reaches.
Everybody looked just like the grandpas. We were puking, but we were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love that there's things that we think of that you're like, huh, like these characters.
Totally. This is... It's like the sliding doors of books. You guys have a whole other layer. I'm like, I don't know, maybe that could
happen. Okay, another question that we had. Okay, so in the end, in the epilogue, you'll see that obviously you guys know, but Daisy and Lily don't have any contact.
Right.
How did you make that choice? And because I had thought when you're reading along before you get to the epilogue that maybe once Daisy's back, there was some piece of me that thought maybe Daisy Bluebell, Cinnamon, they'd all come together and it would be like, I feel like I saw this on a TV show of like some working moms, if anyone's ever, I don't know.
Oh, I love Working Moms. Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about, that storyline. Yes. That's so funny. No, you know what? I think what we really tried to show is that for as naive and desperate and, all the things that Daisy was, she had a real strong sense of self-preservation, like a streak of it in her. And as much as, this decision was really hard for her, she knew what she wanted to do and, was pretty, like, put a pretty sophisticated plan into place for her, right? In terms of getting all these pieces together. And then I think she was like, I'm not going to look back. Like, she did not want to raise this baby. And she really wanted the baby to be in a safe place. And then once she was assured that Cinnamon had it, that they were even able to talk about it, it wasn't like, I hope so, fingers crossed, but that Cinnamon committed to her face that she was going to, raise this baby, and, do it with all of her heart and soul. I think Daisy then was able to like go off and, follow her dreams. And she left it to Cinnamon, and so that it wouldn't get, sort of more messy and complicated. And I see somebody wrote in the chat, do we think that Lily ended up reaching out to Daisy at some point? And I think that's a good question too. I don't know. I'm guessing so. I think most adoptive kids, and my parents were foster kids. So, foster kids, my parents were foster parents, when I was growing up. So, some from personal experience, I think if you're always curious about your biological family, if you're adopted or foster child, and if there's a way to find them, then you will. So I think that the urge and the curiosity for Lily, especially upon getting these letters, if there was a way to contact Daisy, and presumably there was, because Cinnamon had been at least in touch with her, and now we live, she wasn't hiding, so she could be found on social media, what have you. I think she tries to find her. I do. What do you think, Joe?
I do think she tries to find her. And we like went back and forth about how involved is Daisy in the child's life, and it almost just felt too like sitcom-y, like pat, to be like, oh, okay, now we're all one big happy family, right? Like, and I think that kind of dilutes the fact that Daisy didn't want to be a mom. Like, she didn't want to raise that child. And like, that's the narrative that we hear so often. The like, oh, of course you want to be a mom. If you could just get this like kind of support. And she's like, no, I don't want this.
Yeah.
And so I think we had to like make that like really definitive, as Christine said.
Yeah. And to see it through. Part of what we really wanted to talk about here, the same way that, for those of you who read We Are Not Like Them, we really leaned into our different perspectives as a Black woman and a white woman to write that book, right? And it's the same way here. Like, we really leaned into our different perspectives, as Joe has a million kids, as we talked about. I have
so
zero.
Many of them here.
So many. One of whom you've met. I'm presuming the other two are asleep, or who might make a surprise appearance before this Zoom call is
You
over.
never know who's going to pop in.
But we wanted to lean into those different perspectives too. And we see so many stories, and you guys know from all the movies and books that, about, kind of perfect motherhood, or, where it's like you plan the baby and it with your loving partner, and it comes, just at the right time in spring, and you have the perfect nursery set up, or, the kind of funny hijinks of like, motherhood is so miserable, I'm drinking 3 martinis a day. We have so many of those kind of tropes, but we really don't see a lot of stories about people who are ambivalent about motherhood, who are really grappling with like, do I want to be a mother or not? And, what kind of hard choices do I have to make if I don't want to be a mother? And sometimes we don't see that story all the way through. And so to Joe's point, we didn't want to soften it by saying, never mind, like she changed her mind, and don't worry, everybody, she really did want to be a mother. and live happily ever after, because, that's not always the case. And we need to be able to, as women in a society, be honest about that and talk about that.
I think that's such a good point, because we see the opposite, where we see all these bad mother stories and it's like too late. And I think I read something, I think Christine, you wrote this, where people will automatically to any woman be like, so do you have kids? So do you have kids?
Totally.
Do you have kids? And if you don't, because I get this a lot,
Maybe you
people
should
like
light back on.
the automatic reaction is, oh, I'm sorry. And you don't even know how to respond. You're like, I don't need you to be sorry.
You're like, okay, thanks.
But people would never say that to, people would never, oh, and if you proceed by going, well, I don't have kids, and then like, well, are you going to regret that? Like, no one would ever ask a mother, like, you regret having your
But it's also, you have to calibrate your tone in such a way. So you're like, like I wrote a piece about this. It's like, somebody says, do you have kids? You have to say no in just the right way. So it's not like,
then they're
this
like,
is not a tragedy, but I'm not like, no.
Yeah.
It's only one syllable, but you got to really play it right down the middle.
I feel like I've read one book and it's actually like the opposite. It's this book, it's called We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a woman
Yes.
that's super ambivalent about having kids because she loves her career. She finally does for her husband, and it like goes very
go
well.
well. Yeah.
But
totally.
yeah, it is definitely a good book. I'm making.
But that's funny, because that book has come up a couple of times in our talks, and that just goes to show you that there are not that many stories out there,
No.
right, of like motherhood ambivalence. So it's the same book, can come up a few times, because it's just like so rare to have these kind of stories.
It is certainly rare. Rach asked, could Daisy be lying about I want to talk about the father incident, and we're going to try and keep it to 8. I know you guys have been talking on this all day long. Could Daisy have been lying about the father? But the father is the father, or how do you feel about that?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that this is like, she was really naive and really, really upset about Caleb leaving. I mean, I think that that's what really spurred her to go, do something so uncharacteristic, meaning go to a bar even alone, and she had never really drank before, and and then like go home with somebody that showed her kindness, right? And again, like both of those are really, when you're lonely, and those are both really seductive scenarios, especially when you're 19 and like just don't know any better.
And
I mean, literally
abused, guys, like
and
she
you've been
really
abused and you're
been
so
abused.
vulnerable. Yeah. And so I think that and Daisy, honestly, I mean, not for nothing, probably has not had a lot of sex ed either in her life. So I think that she's probably naive about, a lot of mechanics even. So yeah. I could see her, and we could see her getting into a situation, like that, and then again, not having any choices. But I think that that's like the scenario as it happened, I think is true to what happened to Daisy.
Rach put a comment in there, and it's like, swear word them kids. And I keep seeing Instagram things on that, parents who just like get their day off and they're like, screw them kids, it's about us today. Like, because it's both sides, like you got to have the balance. So I have to shout that out. Aunt Cecilia. It's funny because for some reason I wanted to forgive her, maybe because I always feel like as a nurse, people like come into they always say about death, if you are faced with death and like shit tons of money, it'll reveal your true personality. Yeah. And so I don't know what to think about Aunt Cecilia, because it's such an interesting character where she had no one. No one at the end. And so that made me feel more sorry for her, but was she really just that awful of a person?
I think she's kind of an asshole. But we wanted to try to have the reader have empathy for even Aunt Cecilia, right? Like, she was in a bad, loveless marriage. She made bad decisions, especially regarding Cinnamon, but also thought she was protecting her own daughter. And, that carries through with the theme of like, what will we do for our children? Even sacrifice another child. So yeah, we did want the reader to feel some empathy at the end, but again, she was left alone because she didn't do the things to cultivate the relationships that the kinds of relationships Cinnamon ends up with
Yeah.
at the end, right? By being there for other people, by like being there for your chosen family. Aunt Cecilia did not do that.
And also, Aunt Cecilia we really wanted to show to you that this idea of, the pretty picture. And Aunt Cecilia was so obsessed with the pretty picture, right? Like her daughter getting, being in this like fancy private school and, being seen as a good person in the community and, having this like very successful husband in the house, and like that can be blinding and can make you do desperate things and she, for whatever safe role that she thought that she created, Cinnamon was a disruptor to that. And I think you could, in a human nature way, even if you're judgmental of this, which I am, but in a human nature way, you could see how she's like, I opened my home to you and I didn't have to, right? Like she could have said, oh, I have my own things going on here. I don't have to take in somebody else's child, whoever it is, let alone my estranged brother. And she did. And I think she's the type of person that, feels like that gets her a lot of mileage.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I think I felt empathy for her because it's like, there's some music lyric that came to my head when I was writing about her the other day, and it was like self-preservation is a full-time occupation. Like she just like, I think it's like Ani. It's like old, but like
it is.
She just couldn't do anything better, like with what she had, but it was horrible to just kick the kid out. She was like, I gave you a car, and Cinnamon's life was horrible because of it. So I don't know if I wanted Cinnamon to forgive her or because she was dying and had nothing, but I felt that her giving the scholarship thing was perfect. That was enough.
But we also don't know how much Cinnamon wants to forgive her, right? I mean, Cinnamon feels really ambivalent about it. And, just as conflicted as we all do. Like this woman on one hand did this, on the other hand did this, but she did this, but she's dying, but this, but that, I mean, and that's the complexities of human nature that we, really try to keep drilling in on, in terms of all these like little dynamics of half of us would forgive Aunt Celia and half of us wouldn't, and both are valid, but it's just, how it works.
I wouldn't forgive her.
I don't know. I wanted to. I mean, I don't know. Forgiveness is such a weird thing. It is such a weird thing. I don't know. Yeah, I think we were on the fence for that. Book clubbers, I want to keep us close to time. More questions? There's no hands raised. I see you guys are putting them in the chat, but is there anything else that we missed? I went through our notes for the most part. What else? I'll tell you one thing that we talked about a lot, the idea of, especially when you're meeting someone, how much you're supposed to reveal, because Cinnamon just basically left out a whole, I was shocked by that. Like, shocked. I'm like, I just feel like I need to know everything about everyone around me. So if you have like 10 years of your life that you're just, I ruminated on that.
Well, but I think this really happens. And I think you mentioned something earlier about, how can you keep so much of yourself from somebody, which is fair. But I feel like once you get in the habit of doing that, that's a really hard habit to break with everybody else you meet after, because then it's like, even if you are feeling more open, it's like, why would I tell this person and not this person? Why would I I mean, even if she wanted to open up to Lucia, her first friend, having met her, she had already, the die was cast that, she didn't say anything to Jason. And so you kind of lie, just builds and builds, on top of you. And it sort of gets out of hand and out of your control. And so I think that was a lot of it for Cinnamon that, I could see sitting down on a date with somebody that you're trying to impress and then not wanting to say all your, to her mind, ugly history. And then when do you say it? The third date, the fifth date, and then he's liking you. Like, when is the opening to be like, oh, by the way, this? And, I've seen this happen to, girlfriends that I have that are dating. And
like,
the bombshell gets dropped too late.
Yeah, Alicia, we'll get you in a sec. It's funny. I have a good friend who wrote a book he grew up in Detroit and he took someone's life out of self-defense, went to jail for like 19 years, came out of jail, like was in solitary confinement, and he wrote a book on it. But he was like, oh, there's tons of people who once they come out and if they actually integrate, they will never mention it. And I'd be like,
Never tell. And I could see that though. It's like,
yeah.
well, also because then people form an opinion of you and are judging you. And so like that's one of the themes that we were really tried to dig into. It's like if we paint this picture in our society of like you have to have like, two perfect parents that have been married for 50 years and you live in a suburb, but like everything has to be perfect. And then anything outside of that, divorce, single mom, adoption, like whatever it is, there's so much stigma around that. And so, and then you internalize that shame. Like my family, even though it's much more common, like, the 2-parent 50-year family is very rare. And so you could see how you would, have that stigma and shame, but part of what we were trying to show is not to have that, right?
I love that. Okay, Alicia. Hi, welcome, girl. Wait, unmute. Let me unmute you. Or I can unmute you. Hold on. I think I can unmute you. Okay, there. We hear you.
I should know better because I just got done teaching a class. But thanks so much for this book. I kept saying to Tanya about this book has really resonated with me because I was a foster child and I was where when you get out, I ended up going into the military after leaving. Thankfully, I didn't go to different homes or anything like that. My oldest brother, it was his grandmother that took me and my other brother in after so many years. She got him when he was a baby and then got me and my brother when we were 4 and 5. But either way, when you don't have your family set like that, you're not easy to tell your business. You're not easy to relate with your other friends who are saying, oh, my mom, my dad, and you're normally pretty quiet. Even though my personality is that I'm a fighter. I was 2 pounds when I was born. But so me, myself, yes, I was a go-getter, but in sharing myself, what am I going to share if I feel ashamed about nobody? Well, most kids feel nobody wanted you, right? Yeah. So I could really resonate with Cinnamon because her challenges and her choice was all selfish and to a point where it was like she only had herself to think about. She didn't have the family dynamic to think about. She didn't have a brother or sister to think about. So although selfish in a way, in a, where most people are like, oh, will you forgive her, for not telling her story, things like that. Well, she had to be selfish because it's a protective mechanism, for her and the shame she felt. So I could definitely, so much relate with that. And I would definitely take somebody's kid, even though I had my own. I got 2 grown daughters, but literally I was talking to somebody's baby at Costco a couple of hours ago before I taught class because I love little babies. And, and one thing I feel is so important to me, especially right now, I teach dance fitness, is especially young girls feeling good in themselves and having that confidence and that self-awareness, and that no matter who they are or where they come from, they're loved and they're important too. So
Amen.
I really enjoyed this book. So yeah, that's why I resonate with Cinnamon, and I was so easy to forgive. I was so easy to understand that perspective and coming from that. I feel like people who had that 2-parent dynamic, they wouldn't understand that, and rightfully so. You know what I mean? As far as under the normal moral construct, but as far as for someone in that, in that area, it's like, wow. But I'm reading a book now by Naomi Bryant. It's called Madam X, and it's the same situation where her mother died when she was 5. Her father died when she was 10, and the stepmother took care of her, but then she found out that the lady only was taking care of her for the inheritance that he left her. And she treated her so mean and everything, but she was really, really mad about it, that because the husband cheated on her with her mother. So
I can't
you know,
Talk about drama. Jeez,
there was drama, but guess her dynamic was she didn't want to have kids.
Mhm.
I always wanted to have kids, and I have me 2 grown daughters that I just love and everything else. But it's it just depends on how dramatic someone's experience.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
I'm military. I've been military. I retired after 30 years in 2017. But I've met a few people in Washington State where they didn't have kids. They didn't want kids. They come from 2-parent families, but moving here in Maryland, I've met like at least 15 more single girls who I never wanted kids or anything, and their experiences are vastly different. So it's really interesting to
Yeah.
me.
There's a couple questions. Thanks. Nisha.
So
Go ahead.
can I just make a really quick comment? Because I think the other thing about that is, people judging Cinnamon for not taking the baby to the police, but there's such a cultural thing here too. And you made me think of it when you were talking about, the circumstances of your, foster situation, and that, in the Black community, there's a lot of kinship care, right? A lot of people just making informal arrangements that do not involve social services or authorities or the police, right? And they just do it. And so, Cinnamon would be thinking in that way too, in terms of like, she has been in foster situations where, that was likely the case, that a niece or nephew or whatever was, in the home as well. And so I think we can't be just so quick to think, a lot of readers are so quick to think of like, there's one way and this is the system, but there's a whole world that operates outside of the system, particularly in the Black community, that would have made this even more plausible for her to do that.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up with some rapid questions. Did Jason give his mom and Cinnamon any money back? Yes or no?
No,
No.
definitely
He never
not.
made
Jason,
any-
rear view.
No, he's never made the second that Jason made any money, he spent that money on
Oh,
himself.
guys, that is so
Definitely.
true. Just because this is the Tanya Time Book Club. Everyone was saying they're like the RHOA member in the picture that was married was me or something. I'm just asking questions. So we owned it. I was like, you guys are right. I had a book cameo.
Obviously,
Totally.
definitely. And
you
in the
guys, you
TV
heard it
show,
here.
there'll have to be a cameo. We'll have to
Oh,
recreate
yeah.
the
Oh yeah, in the TV show, it's definitely you.
Is there a TV show? Did you guys just spill the tea?
No.
Oh, no.
Hopefully we hope so, but
We
Want
hope
us
so,
to
but
powerfully
we're
manifest.
manifesting.
Can.
yeah.
Are you working on something? I know this was a 2-book deal. Like, what are you guys working on now? Either individually, separately, like shill your stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So we just started, we didn't just start, we've been working on it for a while, a new book together, which we're about 150 pages into, called I Never Knew You at All. And it explores race within an interracial marriage, a Black woman and a white man, and a secret from his family's, his very privileged white family's past, where his grandfather may have been involved in a hate crime against a Black man when he was in high school, comes to light, and it's how that rocks their marriage and their world. And again, more themes of forgiveness, like what can you forgive, and who deserves forgiveness. So we're working on that. I just turned in a book that is coming out in April called The Sicilian Inheritance, which is a twisty, turny family murder mystery filled with wine and sex and travel in Sicily. So it's different than these books.
We love it. We will definitely have to get it for the first 50.
Oh my gosh, it's yours.
yeah,
It's yours for the
totally.
first 50. It's beautiful, and like, it's a lot of fun. It's gonna make you hungry though, because I just finished doing my last copy edits on it, and all I've been doing is craving cannoli and pasta and Sicilian wine, and so I gained like 5 pounds just doing some copy edits past couple days.
And we like reading and eating and drinking. That's our group.
Yeah.
Okay, Christine, what are you up to?
I think it's so interesting. I was just going to say, because, Joe's solo book is so different and so is mine. And I mean, we love writing together, and it's like such a the themes are so deep and complicated and intense, and it's a lot. And so Joe went, Italy, travel, food, and I'm going straight rom-com.
Oh,
and
we
I'm
need
working-
all of it though.
I'm working on a novel called To All the Men I've Loved Again, about a woman who finds herself in a love triangle with two men in her 20s and then finds herself in the same love triangle in her 40s. So it's about second chances and lost love and regret, and yeah, it's fun.
Ooh, I love
There's
it.
more sex than
Love
food, but
We need both things. And it's so funny because, I feel like our book club always surprises us. And especially with the first 50, it allows us to sprinkle in different topics and see what we like. And it's really interesting because I think I know what people, and then we like something else. So we get a little bit of both things. So we will definitely look out for both, like we will have you guys on for everything. I think we're obsessed with you in the nicest, most bibliophilic way.
Back at you.
No,
And we're so honored to be the first 50 and to be, part
we
of
were
these
very
discussions.
excited about
It's like
that.
amazing. Yeah. So
Very
you have the
excited.
first 50 pages of every book forever and ever and ever. Whether you
Forever and
want it or
ever.
not, read it or
No.
not, but we're gonna get it to you.
And people you guys can unmute. I know it's so funny because we go back and forth between being with cameras on, with cameras off. So I'm going to just remove all these spotlights, especially from my face, so that you can see everyone. But thank you so much, ladies. You can unmic, give these ladies a round of applause. Look out for the
Thank
books.
you
Everyone.
guys.
Oh,
Thank you
So
so
excited
much.
to have you here. We're
Thank you.
Great
excited.
turnout.
Thank you. Great
so
book.
great.
Wait for the next book.
We're so
Great book.
excited. This
Love
means
your
a lot.
books.
Seriously, we
This
just
was
love
an
that you
amazing
read
book.
it, and to be able to talk to you about it is icing on the cake. All we want to do is write books that people, that resonate with people and that they want to talk about, because we think that creates community. And the idea that you guys have created this amazing community, it's just, so great. So thank you.
Well, thank you guys,
Great
and we appreciate your
inspirational,
time.
inspiring authors.
Thank you so much. We stay on. We have a little after party. We discuss a little bit more.
Got it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Joe. Thank
So
you.
we're getting
Right.
kicked out. That's what you're
Oh,
saying.
okay. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
No, we trying to be
Bye.
respectful.
Good
because
Wow, no, we get it. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that was fun.
They're just so I love that her kid is just there, and she's just she's swearing, talking about her book. I didn't want to ask the question about the grandpa in front of the
I
kid.
know. I was trying to censor it and trying to keep it PG if I could.
Okay, I have to tell you guys, I've been dying for After Party Book Club because I have to tell you this story. So I was back and this is full circle, so crazy. I was back in Toronto last week, which number one is hard because it's great because I get to see all my friends and family, but obviously I lost my dad, he's not there, but we had this family party. Hello, art imitates life. So I will try to keep this as nameless as possible, but one of my godparents just lost his mom at 101 years of age. So she's and she was such an integral part of our family, whatever. So he said, as they were cleaning out, okay, now I'm going to try and make the long story short, but I need to give you all the nuances. He's white. She is Black, African from Ghana. Okay. A lot of the first generation people in Canada. So this grandmother who died came from Ireland to immigrate to Canada at 101. So I don't know what year she came. Anyways, she grew up in Canada, and I got to get the story right. It's so crazy, you guys. So when she passed, my aunts were she and my aunt were so close. She said, he's when she passed her, they put her into a home, right? Because she was palliative, etc. She had this, in her house, she had a jewelry drawer. So he said to my aunt, go under and just take out the good jewelry and figure out what's costume, whatever. And there was a secret lining underneath the jewelry drawer. So underneath the jewelry drawer, there were these papers from 19, I don't know what, because when she first met my uncle's dad, she got pregnant. It was so early days that they were unwed, they were pregnant, they couldn't be together. Her family sent her to a Toronto maternity home. And she had the baby. They gave the baby away. They sent her all the way to the West Coast for however many, 5 years. She was heartbroken, had no choice, then came back. Her and the grandpa got together and they had my uncle, and they only had one kid. So all his life, he only had one kid, etc. It's so House of Eve, you guys. They had one kid, and she never, to the day she died, never told him, like carried this secret. And so number one, and it's not even like a half brother or half, it was his full-blooded brother. And he said, like, for his whole life, every so often someone would come up to him and be like, oh my gosh, I just ran into your doppelganger. The doppelganger was so strong that I'd be like, no, Barry. Anyways, nameless person. What are you talking about? It's me, it's me. They'd be like, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know who you're talking about. So now, fast forward, the son that she gave away for adoption reached out once adoption records opened. And the saddest part is this old woman, I mean, she was so old. Like, if you imagine the shame that she never reached out to the son. So now he found out that he has this full brother, and he's like, we had this whole family conversation. If he reaches out, does he, whatever. And he's like crying because he was so close to his mom and like such a big thing. And I was like, you have to reach out. Like, isn't that just so crazy? But just all of the nuances of, you think about over, I mean, so she was probably 16. So I don't know what the math is. Someone do the math on, she died at 101 4 weeks ago.
85.
Right?
85
Like,
years.
yeah. And just carrying that for her whole life, and then finding out that you have a real brother with your parents. I mean, it was so crazy. It was the craziest thing. I was never expecting that at all. And so the whole family was like, and it's up to him, obviously, but he's just like, I can't. I think he feels like it would betray her because she felt so strongly about it to carry that for her whole life. I mean, it was just crazy.
My thing is, why did she keep the papers? Like, was she meant for it to be left behind for him to find out, or,
Good question.
maybe attach a letter to it or burn the papers? But that's just me.
And he's still alive. Like, he's in his, I guess. But yeah, like, it hits home, and everybody's like, these crazy, I just couldn't believe it. A maternity house, Canada, like, long lost siblings, and it apparently looks exactly like him. And so he a joke with his mom, and he was like, I never actually really meant it, but she never said a word. He was like, I'm your favorite son, right? Yeah,
It's crazy the parallels with about the books we just
Every
recently
book.
read.
every book basically. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. So I don't know, but
It
that's a
prepared
different
you to
lot.
absorb the news, but him, he's gonna have to get some counseling or something.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I think he secretly hid it in that little area and then forgot about it.
Mm.
And it was, yeah. And even my aunt, who was like our family, she was like, I would never have guessed that she would have been able to keep that secret forever. So when you talk about holding these things in and like, what's a secret you keep? I was like, my God.
I mean, 10 years turn into 20, turn into 50. Next thing you know. It's
And
like, what's the
time
point now?
frame, like, it was so long ago. It was, I mean, it was just.
Do you think she took it out of her mind? Some people completely forget. I don't know.
Wonder.
Maybe
That's not
she
forget
just
something you
maybe,
forget.
maybe she just didn't want to disrupt his life after she gave him up for adoption. Some parents struggle with that. Like, do I want to disrupt their life after they've started with a different, set of parents, and maybe one day he'll come looking for her. Maybe that's what she was hoping for. And maybe that just didn't happen.
I thought about that because it was kind of like Daisy, right? Where you have to believe, like, one of two things happened. Either it was the best decision you made and they had a great life, and that's probably what I think you have to fall asleep to, or maybe it wasn't and you couldn't cope with thinking of the alternative. Yeah, so I was like, you better hire a private detective and find out. It's like, I don't know. Ooh.
That's like that recent Tyler Perry movie.
Which one?
What is the one that he had on Netflix recently? I forgot the name already.
I think he just pumps them out. But
With the
anyway,
old Southern family. Mm,
I thought it was super
didn't
fascinating.
it come up?
Okay, so what did you guys think? What's coming up next? What are you guys reading? Tell me more. Tell me everything. I just told you everything.
Yikes, what to read?
Oh, wait, I will tell you guys I forgot to mention it to them. If anyone's watching the new Sex and the City reboot, their book is in it. Like Carrie goes to her bookshelf and she pulls off a book and you can very prominently see oh no, it's We Are Not Like Them is on the bookshelves in it. I thought that was really cool.
Nice.
Okay, progressive. All right, Carrie.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Carrie, yeah. I would hope Carrie's reading a mixture of stuff.
And maybe not old season Carrie, this new season Carrie's.
Yeah, new season Carrie is pretty interesting. I really, Aaliyah's saying, I really love, if anyone has not seen it, I don't know if you're Sex and the City is like my generation for the first one. This one is very different because they're just like uber wealthy in it. Like it's like she just buys a condo in New York and then she sells it, buys another one because she's got like
That's
billions.
the life insurance money.
No, that's Big's money. That's Big's money.
Mhm.
Well, whoever, she's got
Big
it
bang.
now. But I love Nicole Ari Parker in it. I love her. She's just fabulous and amazing. I like her relationship with her husband and her kids. So if you haven't watched it, it's really cute. Jazzman Blues.
I
Okay.
can't wait to check it out because I used to love the old one. And it's funny, me and my sister were laughing the other day how we were the only Black folk in the movie theater. I dragged her when I was like 13. I don't even know when the first movie came out. And then we were the only Black folk there.
Was the only Black person in the movie, in the series for like 9 seasons or however long.
Mm-hmm.
That was like her first movie.
So what we reading?
What are you guys reading? Okay, a couple of things. If anyone's in Atlanta, I'm doing an in-person author chat. It's not really one that we can do in book club because it's like a beautiful coffee table book, but on September 12th. And I love this book and I'll keep posting about it. It's called Fly. It's the big book of basketball history. So if you need a good gift for a basketball fan, this book is a beautiful coffee table book of pictorial, like everything from like the OGs, how they started, with their big suits to chains, all the little nuances that has made basketball fashion, like the height of everything to LeBron, the fashion killers right now, even there's women in it. It's so good. So that's September 12th at a Black-owned bookstore called 44th and 3rd here in Atlanta. It's ticketed, but it's not ticketed, it's free, but you just have to RSVP on Eventbrite, but it's so good. And the author is amazing. He's like a Pulitzer Prize award-winning author. He writes like for all the top magazines, has written a book before, so it's really good. Anyone wants to come to that. What else is happening? And then London.
Wait, Tanya, quick question before we talk about London.
Yeah.
The book, Fly,
Yeah.
would it be good for a 20-year-old boy?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Honestly, because I figure like 20-year-old boys, you either like to look at pictures and be on Instagram. It's basically like giving an Instagram version of like cool basketball superstars. It's really good. The pictures are really beautiful too.
Okay, and I can get it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon, but it won't go on sale until September 5th. So I'll start posting the link like in a week or two because it's not on sale yet. It's still like pre-release. But the guy's very interesting. He's very smart. Really like the stuff that he writes.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, I do have another. Oh, hi, Ulysses. How are you?
Good. Now that's what I'm talking about. Something to bring the fellas in.
Yes,
That's
I'm
what I'm
trying.
talking about. Word. See, I love that. See, I thought I was the only one. You mentioned coffee table books, and immediately I think of like Kramer, on Seinfeld, the coffee table, but no, seriously.
That's a funny.
But seriously, I think about Taschen. He's a great author.
Yes.
And I have several of his books,
Me
coffee
too.
table books. But that's what I'm talking about. I mean, I'm not just saying,
No, it is right up your alley then, because it's beautiful. It's like AI to like not Larry King. What's his name?
I know you're talking about Larry Johnson.
Yeah, that guy. Like all the old, it's
Yeah.
so good.
And see, that's what I'm talking about. I was kind of, like want to talk to you about what can we do to bring more to fellas. And I think I mentioned this to you before, but things like this, and
Well, even
then,
like, I want more male authors. But
Yeah.
and I feel like I haven't found, it's funny because there's like, what's his name? Keeson Layman, like, Taneshi. I'm looking for, because I feel like we're out of the pandemic. We can do some heavier stuff for sure.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But I
Yeah,
haven't
How about
yeah.
Dr. Black?
Who is it?
Dr. Black.
Who's
Daniel
Dr.
Black. I like him. Don't Cry for Me, Dr. Black, or S.A. Crosby. Crosby.
Oh yeah, I've seen him. Okay. I just want like some stuff that we don't feel like, I love Taneshi Coates, but I feel like maybe we're ready for the heavy stuff, or we're like, okay. But I also like the fun of, and even like an Eric Jerome Dickey, this is gonna sound horrible.
Oh, please.
Did he
I
pass
read his book again and I was like, oh no, how did this even pass?
away? That's the thing. I don't know if he's written anything recently.
No, he passed away, but I'm saying
I
like
thought he did.
some of his older works are very problematic today.
Yeah, I could imagine. So I'm always open to things. And then I've been trying to figure out the next couple of weeks if you guys want to do more first 50s or commit to a full read.
Wait, what are the first 50s anyway? Sorry, I just know about the book club.
So basically with the first 50 is I'll pick books that we basically get access to the first 50 pages. We read it, we'll discuss, and then the next week we can do another book, and then the next week we can do another book, and we can either decide we want to dive in and read the whole book together, or we like just reading the first 50 pages together and move on. And most of this is before we go into, because I like reading the full book. I certainly like reading the full book as a group, but sometimes it's nice to test the waters. And it's like low commitment times when it's like back to school, September, because they do get a lot of access to some pre-releases. Okay, so people definitely liked the first 50, polled it and let us vote. Okay.
I got something to talk to you about. We'll get more male authors. There's one that I was trying to get here and attempting to get where I'm at, but due to the pandemic and since, things have happened, but it's right on time. And it's also in the alignment, so to speak, with the shoe book, but it's not necessarily regarding shoes. It's for fashion and it's a man,
Send
but
it
it's
to me. I
something
want
else.
to see it.
I know we got to talk about it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna tap to you. We're gonna talk.
Definitely send it. Because it's so hard. Yeah, I definitely want just more suggestions and stuff, because sometimes you only know your little lane. And I get a lot of bounds from publishers and stuff. And I'm like, but I will tell you, Stash completely surprised me. I really liked Stash.
It might have surprised you, but it didn't surprise me.
Like, okay, people want the full reads, first 50s. Maybe we'll do like another poll and then decide.
I have a question. Will we get any of the books from the London trip, the authors that we're going to meet? Because I think for some of us that are going on that trip, we would want to read some of the books.
So there's
author dinners.
Okay, I'll tell you so we're going to do the first, because I'm trying to actually do a couple more authors, because now authors are reaching out like, I want to be featured at and there's like typically 4 nights. There's going to be a couple nights that we might do 2 different authors and then do the first 50 for both of them, so that, I don't know, I feel like the more the merrier. Like, I love that we could just have, be sitting around at dinners and having these conversations. So there'll be a mix. There's one book in particular, I really wanted us to read Night Bloom, Peace Adomezi. That book is so good. If you guys liked His Only Wife, Night Bloom is like even 10x better. And the Audible, if you can afford it, because it's like $29 or something, is so good. So as we get closer, our plan was we'll read Night Bloom for the month of September, and then we'll have done that in full, and then do a couple other first 50s for people that are coming in London, so that we can at least be familiar with the authors and know their stories. But now, like, I was like, I'd rather have more authors than not, because it's so great to like be able to discuss all these different, and it's also very interesting because a lot of them are London based. There's and I'm not really keeping a secret, but I am keeping a secret for another 2 weeks until we get their exact dates of which comes where. But they're going to be good, and they're all really different. They're like, the UK is such a different vibe. Like, I'm very, now that we've chosen London, it's like they're all like half African, half British, or this, or Jamaican British, and like their stories are so different. So we're really taking like a leap across the pond with this.
There's some Caribbean reads.
Is one,
I'm not even going, but I just want to know.
it doesn't matter if you're not going though, because I'm going to try and do like live streams, so at least, you know, people can come in, it, you know, so at least you can sort of participate and stuff. There's one woman who, she's trying to figure out if she can come. She's half, it's actually a really interesting story. She grew up in a Rastafari community and then like left because it was like really difficult for her. There was a lot of misogyny, and I was really shocked by this story as well. And she basically wrote a memoir on it, but I don't know if she's going to be able to be in London. But her name is Sophia Sinclair or something. And her book will just, a lot of the books will just be coming out in October and November. So we're getting sort of like first dibs at the first 50. Yeah. Oh, Morgan's saying libraries have, I didn't know libraries have e-audio. Because I feel like I always use the Libby app and I didn't know that was on there, but I love that. I love it. Okay, guys, that's all I got today. Anything else?
Well,
you guys are really quiet.
Oh, it's like weird, right? Because usually we're gabbing about what shows.
I know. I feel like is Monday an off day for everyone? Because I always call Mondays are like,
maybe we're not used to the swing of Monday. I don't know.
Right.
I
I'm
feel
still
like
my
it.
talkative self, so
Yeah.
My brain's on overload. I had a lot of information jammed down my throat today. I started a new job. And so I'm like, I think I'm still reeling over all the things that I'm trying to keep up with now. So.
And like back to school for like the Southerners, Northerners, maybe not. I feel like today was like, it was a manic Monday. Sometimes they're magic Mondays, sometimes they're manic. Yeah.
Yeah.
How was Beyonce?
Beyonce was amazing. Okay. You're either going to love my answer or you're going to hate it. I loved Beyonce more for the energy of the people. Like Beyonce, let's put it this way. If I didn't get free tickets, I probably would not have gone. And I love Beyonce just because I was like, I like Renaissance. It's not my favorite. When it was Lemonade and the other times, I was like obsessive. And when she first launched and people were talking about tickets being $1,000, I was like, pass. So I just didn't think about it. And then I was like, oh, as it gets closer. And then I ended up getting tickets. So I'm super glad I went. I had the best time. And when I tell you, like, it was just people were so happy to, I haven't been to a concert where it was like, people were just so happy to be there and take pictures. Like it was all, I've never seen, and now I'm not a Swiftie, maybe it's like this at Taylor Swift, but I've never been to a concert where it was more about what people were going, wearing, the fun of dressing up. Like Beyonce was great. She's amazing. Her show was good, but it was like the energy was so, it was, I've never seen that at a concert. And I love concerts. So I would go.
You on the main stage. What happened with Shoegate? Was with the guy, driver. I said, I saw your main page. What happened with the driver?
Okay, first of all, let me tell you, I haven't taken a cab in Atlanta in I don't know how long. And that stadium, I don't understand how you can have these sporting events where you build a stadium with like to hold 120,000 people. And when you come out, it was like mayhem. But I was like, is it like this at the football? It was crazy. Like you couldn't get anywhere. My shoe broke, first of all. And so, but what the plan was, because everyone was like, why did you wear heels? The plan was you're going to walk in. Those are my dancing shoes. They're very, very comfortable to dance for X amount of hours. But when we had to walk a mile to get out, like, and I'm a barefoot girl, like, if it wasn't downtown Atlanta and like, honestly, I was afraid I might like step on like a needle or something, I would have been barefoot, but like my foot was broken and I was like, I cannot walk barefoot here. It's dark. And so we're like stumbling. I was like, I can't go any further. So then this taxi guy pulls up and he's like, yo, you gonna want to run? It's going to be like $100. What you got? What you got? I know you got it. To get out of here.
You're like, whatever.
Oh my God. So we were like, we just need you to drive us to our car. Like we had a car service that was sitting there, was supposed to wait at the exact, and he couldn't get through. Man, this guy was so crazy. Like I wish I could play, I guess I the video of this guy talking. He was like, "You're from Canada? Man, I used to," and like, I'm not filtering. He was like, "I used to pimp these hoes in Canada for a pack of Newports."
Oh my God.
Like, oh, and then he was driving no hands. I was like, okay, either my foot is going to break or this guy's going to crash into a wall. This is the craziest cab driver I've ever had. It was so nuts. Like, it was so funny. And so basically, if you go, just, I will always wear running shoes now. And it was just, yes. Like, I'm going to play you his thing because I recorded it. Since we're all on here, we're all best friends. You've got to listen to this man. Okay. Wait. Can you hear?
We can't hear.
Can't hear it.
We can't hear it.
Oh, good. Because he's saying the N-word a lot, actually, now that I hear it. I don't want you to hear it. But he's crazy. He was like, yeah, we used to go to Canada and we put all the girls. I was like, so basically you're admitting to being like, it was so crazy. No hands. And he called his son. It was so crazy. And we were just like, we just need to get home, sir. It was crazy. But anyways, good times at the Beyonce concert.
My feet would have been elevated, not fine. Whatever, sir.
Oh, I didn't leave
Just
the
give me
house the
some
next
time.
day. The whole next day, I couldn't. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get up and go to the gym. I got out of bed, and I don't know if this has ever happened. I put my feet on the ground, and I promise you, I fell to the ground. I was like, oh my god,
Oh my God.
it was that bad.
I wanted that experience. I regret not buying the tickets the Saturday she came to MetLife.
It was
Next
great.
time.
Like, I will tell, I love live music. Like, I'm going to see Bears Hammond this weekend at Chastain, which will be completely different because he's like 90 years old, this old reggae superstar, and it's outdoors, and it'll probably be like a whole bunch of 90-year-old people. But I'm like so happy because I feel like you just got to see the greats when you see them. Like, they're so good. And I see like, I try not to pass up like a good one. I regret not going to Taylor Swift. Yeah, I don't even know any of her songs really. I don't know how I missed that, but I feel like she's gonna put on a show.
That woman's making bank.
I also would not pay for Taylor Swift because I don't know any of her songs. But if someone gave me free tickets, I would go to Taylor
Those
Swift.
tickets are outrageous, though. They're even higher than Beyonce's.
Oh yeah, and I can't believe that's people taking their kids. Sheesh.
So Tanya, your experience with the taxi person was kind of like at Caravana, the Rick Ross concert. We are like 45 minutes outside the city and into this field. And like when we get there, of course the concert is going, but I forget the person up and they're trying to rev the crowd, and I'm never thinking, well, we're not happy because we're here in these in the woods. Well, not necessarily in the woods, but in this field, and we don't know, our heels are digging deep. Thankfully, I had on tennis shoes myself, but I'm saying the other women who ain't saying nothing, their heels are probably in the dirt. And then like when it was over with, Rick Ross didn't even say bye. He only did it for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, see, that's like, this is my problem with performers. Like, if I pay money, I feel like the best are the ones that like, and Beyonce gives everything to the crowd.
Right.
Like, everything. You cannot, she is faultless. Like, she's amazing. She's flawless. But like, you see through those ones who are just out there to like literally secure the bag and leave. And I'm just like, after that, I will never want to see you again. Like,
yeah. And we had to literally walk about a mile in the dark, no lights, to get an Uber, to get to the street, the road, to get an Uber. And it was cold out there.
There's something, number one, yeah, Canada will get cold at night. Number two, like, we love these like park parties or concert parties that are like in the boondocks. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, who's Samara Joy? Do I need to like look up this artist? How do I not know them? I like that. And I like Robert Glasper right now. I feel like I just discovered him too.
Yes, Samara Joy is a very young jazz singer. She's amazing. If you like Ella Fitzgerald,
Yeah.
and yes, that's her style. She's amazing.
Okay, I'll definitely look her up.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well,
Book a rating.
I guess we should get off here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
So
Good night.
we're off tomorrow. We're off tomorrow. I'll do another couple lives later this week, just pop-ups talking about London or whatever. If you have any questions, make sure you DM me. Next week we're doing we'll continue the live with the daughter of the junkie. She's really interesting. I really like her story. And then we're gonna do a mix of some first 50s and some full. I still think we're gonna do a full read. I really want to do Night Bloom before, but I'll keep y'all posted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night, everyone.
Everyone.
Night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Tanya.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.